Long Island iced teas. But your buddy's worse off and he throws you his car keys. Blue lights are blinking 4 o'clock in the morning. State trooper makes you wish that you'd never been born. Better call Saul, better call Saul. You want to tell the world you're in love with a...
Ladies and gentlemen, this is It's All Good, Man, the Better Call Saul podcast. I'm Brian. With me, as always, is my co-host, Dave. Dave, how's it going, buddy?
Hey, Doug, can you get me something to drink?
Come on, Doug. Be a guy. Tarantula, Doug. Tarantula. So short and sweet, this episode. I hope everybody's enjoying your off season. This episode, we're pretty excited about, Dave. First, we had Julianne Emery, Ray Seahorn.
Oh, yeah.
And now we have the one and only Patrick Fabian on It's All Good, Man.
I'm trying to think of words to describe how awesome he was, honestly. Like,
dude, he was such a cool dude. Like,
I thought he was going to be a kind of a dick.
You really?
I really did, because he plays the character so well. And I'm looking through his IMDb, and he's got all these like one episode credits, and that's always the asshole, right? You know. And he's got that look, that slick lawyer look to him, even in like his headshot and shit. So it's like, yeah, I thought this guy's going to kind of be a dick, but awesome,
totally cool dude, right? We chatted with him for a while. We talked all sorts of fun things. Like we strive for questions, but he didn't really have the answers because they're still writing the second season. So he's just as curious about some of the things we asked him as we are.
But you know what? The dude was actually more insightful than us. Like
big stretch there.
Yeah,
right?
I know. But part of that is the nature of developing his character for the show and thinking about things for the show. But he gets into some stuff. It's like, I didn't even fucking think of that.
Yeah. It's just incredibly awesome. So, and you'll hear a funny little story of how I kind of cyberbullied him into being on the podcast. And thanks to Julianne Emery and Ray Seahorn for helping me bully Patrick Fabian to being on the show. Now, to his credit, he does state he would have done the show if we didn't bully him.
Right.
But I figure with those two nice ladies, it couldn't hurt to have them backing you up.
Very, very, very cool of everybody. For him for participating, for them for getting him to participate, and for us for providing this entertainment for you guys.
Absolutely. So enjoy your off season. I'm going to keep on trying to get these great interviews for you folks. In the downtime, please check out the Nothing Important podcast. We've had some really kick-ass people on there lately. We've had comedian and actor Owen Benjamin. We've had MMA legend and UFC Hall of Famer Dan Severin. I have a full backlog. I got some crazy awesome guests coming up in June. And of course, I'm going to keep trying to get some of the main players and some of the people that put Better Call Saul together. And I'm working on it hard for you guys because we appreciate you listening to us and hanging out with us for the past 6 months.
And we just want to keep you guys entertained until the next season of our new favorite show comes out.
Absolutely. So, folks, enjoy our talk with Patrick Fabian. Ladies and gentlemen, on the Someone Important Hotline, we have Patrick Fabian, who plays Howard Hamlin on Better Call Saul. Patrick, welcome to our little podcast.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Dave. Glad to be here.
Yeah. First things first, I wanted to publicly apologize for getting Ray Seahorn and Julianne Emery to bully you on Twitter to come on our show.
First, okay, I will counter by saying I was totally going to come on before those ladies bitch slapped me on social media. However, if you're going to be bitch slapped by somebody, Ray Seahorn and Julianne Emery are the ones to be bitch slapped by. So here I am. I couldn't be happier.
Well, good. Good. We're glad to have you and incredibly honored, as you probably guessed. You know, Dave and I are big fans of the show, and of course our listeners out there. You know, we've gotten great responses for the interviews with the location scouts and Julie and Ray, and you were one of the people. Everybody was like, get Howard on, So so we're glad you're here, and we finally were able to connect.
Well, I'm really excited. As a matter of fact, I saw the whole cast over the last 2 nights. We were at the LA screenings, which is where Sony has where international broadcasters come and look at what they're selling for the year. And even though Better Call Saul is pretty much already blanketed worldwide with Netflix and some other sales, we were there to meet everybody. And it was really great to see everybody and sort of see the worldwide reaction that's already happening. But even more important, like the band hadn't been together since we stopped filming back in October. So it was great to have everybody there together and see one another. So I was really psyched to see one another.
Well, that's good. When does production start on season 2? Do you guys have a timeline for that? It would have to be coming up soon, I would think.
Yeah, we're going back in, I think mid-July is when it gets cranking.
Oh, okay.
Just like last year, I would love to be able to tell you. I can tell you what I think might happen, but I don't have any idea hardcore. They haven't been letting any of those cats out of the bag at all. So much like last year, I think it'll be the same wonderful experience of you get the script. Sometimes you get the script like a day before we started shooting an episode because they were fine-tuning it and cranking it out. And,
wow.
As an actor, I don't mind that. That's fine because honestly, if you give me too much time to think about it, I'll start thinking I'm the director and the writer and the producer. And it's kind of better if it just sort of lands in my lap and we go from there. So I have a feeling it's going to be probably the same sort of situation this year as well. But mid-July is when we're heading back to the Great BBQ.
Well, good. We're looking forward to it, and you talk about, they keep fine tuning and changing the script and Howard Hamlin, it turns out he wasn't quite the dick that everybody thought he was.
Hey, how about that? Not a douchebag at all, after all. Not that much of a douchebag.
Right. And I'm just going to go on record. If you listen to I don't have the episode number, but if you listen to our podcast, I totally called that way early in the season.
Yeah, Brian did.
Oh, did you really? Okay.
Yeah, I think
there was an onslaught of like, screw you, man, because it's Better Call Saul. People are on Saul's side. They see the world through him, and also the story is told through his eyes in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so consequently, as soon as Saul says in the beginning in episode 1 that I'm a dick and he calls me Lord Vader, then we take it as fact as audience.
Mm-hmm. And
it wasn't until we get to episode 9 where it's revealed that. That's right. I guess Chuck sucks. Absolutely. Name, instead of Hamlin to go this, as they changed to fuck Chuck on Twitter. That was nice. But when we were playing it, like I said, the scripts were being doled out, and we didn't really have any sort of season-long arc given to us because I don't know if they really knew exactly where they were going to. Part of their creative process, from what I understand, is they don't have everything planned out. I mean, obviously, we know how this links up to Breaking Bad in a number of years. We know that. So we know where Saul's character ends up. But everybody else is a loose cannon, and that tale can be told however the writers, feel the need. And so consequently, when we started shooting the beginning, I remember Vince directed the first episode, and he just sort of gently reminded me that, don't worry about what I read in the script about what other people say about me necessarily.
Right.
He goes, I think Howard's a good guy. That's what he would say. And I was like, give me the next sentence. So I want you to play it like ... But he would never give me that. He would just sort of put in my ear, hey, man, Howard's kind of a good guy. And so I looked at that a lot. So when I got the lines, I would never try and do that, the snidely whiplash or the twirling of the mustache sort of stuff on it whatsoever.
That's awesome because I was going to make a comment about that, how when the reveal came, it wasn't like a shocking transition. There's always a thought in the back of your head, like, Howard might actually be kind of a good guy, maybe just like a scapegoat for something else. Or like the messenger bearing the bad news.
As that happens, then all of a sudden I'll be honest, as an actor, first of all, I was like, oh, I'm the poker up Jimmy's ass. This is awesome. I'm the dick. I am Lord Vader. I'm a douchebag. Who doesn't want to play that as an actor? It's totally fun. But it gets one-dimensional like that,
Right.
And then all of a sudden when we get to that moment where it's like, it's like the goodwill I sort of stocked up by not necessarily really being a douchebag lends itself to like, oh, he's actually not as powerful as you think at all. As a matter of fact, he's much shakier ground than we ever imagined. And it goes from being this, this slick guy in the suit who's perfect, who runs the company. It goes from that sort of like real authoritarian figure to somebody who might be a little more hollow than we expect. And that makes it sad. And it makes it almost sad, like, oh, Howard's not in control at all like we thought he was, which then I think lends itself to a myriad of interesting storylines of, well, why is that?
Right.
Is there money problems? Are there drug problems? Or are there Chuck issues? Clearly there's a Chuck issue. Or is Howard just such a silver spoon guy who who never really had the lawyer smarts, but he has the name, so he sits there, and that's why he needs Chuck so badly. I mean, I don't have those answers. This hasn't been given to me, but it makes your mind. Boy, I'm just talking the entire time on this podcast. I'm so sorry, gentlemen.
It's an interview, man.
I'm just rambling.
Yeah, this is your time.
You're actually answering a few questions that I had in mind as you're going on. So I'm just keep going.
Right, and then we're done. Thanks so much for Patrick Fabian visiting.
Well, as the actor, what was Patrick Fabian's reaction to finding out that Howard wasn't as much of a jerk as they were kind of leading people to believe?
I'm sorry, whose reaction to that?
Yours.
the person, not the character.
Yeah.
Good, great. You know what? My reaction was, thank God I didn't get a bullet in my head. That's always an actor's number one concern. No blood. If there's blood, don't make it mine.
Like at the end of the season, you're cheering, like, all right.
When I first read it, when I first saw it, I was like, oh, I mean, there is that weird thing of like, oh, Chuck gets the thunder. Because that's, I mean, when he calls him a chimp with a machine gun, it's so devastating.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, if Howard said that, it would be almost expected. And it wouldn't have nearly the punch that it holds coming from Chuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Right.
And so consequently, for me, it took to episode 9 to start to get a real handle of like, oh, Howard is really not what because you do make assumptions as an actor. You have to make some assumptions, even if things aren't written. You have to play things with a certain amount of 3D realism. Right? You have to make your world. You have to make your point of view. You have to make your history and all that sort of thing. So I kept in mind that, I kept in mind what Vincent dropped in my ear about, I think Howard's really a good guy. And that comes to that idea of, if people perceive you as saying something bad, that's interesting. But as a character or as an actor, just on a practical level, I think you always have to assume that you are not a bad person, that you are just looking at the world through your point of view. So consequently, as I was playing Howard, it was always like, why is Jimmy not taking my advice? Why is Jimmy not taking my olive branch? Why is Jiminy not listening to good, did I just call him Jiminy? I just did call him Jiminy. Well, you know why? Because it's a paternal thing as well. Even though I'm not even sure what the age break is, I think Howard very much, because of his position, has always thought of Jimmy as sort of a ward, not a son, but somebody who he is there to take care of because of Chuck. And so therefore, I think he wants to help him out. And so when Jimmy scorns him and acts like a teenager, frankly, with his histrionics at me, especially because I am not the dick, right. I think it hurts Howard. And it hurts Howard because he can't say anything. And so in episode 9, we find out, that we find out why. Well, it's how we begin to find out why. At least we find out where the puppeteering is really coming from.
Right.
And you realize that sort of Howard's more adrift. And as an actor, we've just, logged one season down. It does make it interesting because what's he going to do now?
Right.
Is he going to try and help Jimmy? Or is he going to have to fight Jimmy? Or is Jimmy going to try and burn down, metaphorically, the law firm? Or am I going to see him in court? Am I actually going to help him because I feel guilty? I don't know. But all these interesting things to look forward to playing,
Absolutely, and that's what I'm interested in as well, is actually then seeing how, because kind of the cat's out of the bag with Chuck. Now it's presumably out in the open, and and plus I want to see how Howard and Chuck are going to interact with each other as well. Now that everything is kind of out in the open.
It is out in the open, but then that draws in a couple of questions immediately. Like, okay, with Chuck's electricity aversion, I mean, this is something we talked about before. If he's so goddamn important to the firm, to Hamlin, and McGill, then why didn't Howard have like the top-notch doctors and medical staff at his house 24/7 to take care of that?
Yeah.
Chuck was sort of, the fact that Chuck was sort of like left on his own, almost like an indigent in his own home. And that makes me go, well, what's that story? Is Howard carrying up to a point, or does he have a maybe his financial house is more of a house of cards, and Chuck doesn't know that, or Chuck does know that? It's all those sort of things that are these what ifs that are very shaky logs, sort of like your, like those lumberjacks spinning those logs. It's that sort of thing. It really, sometimes I think about it, like lawyers on logs. It's like the Jackson Brown cover, lawyers in love on top of the car with their paddle. Now I'm just crazy.
Right. Well, that's one thing Dave and I always talk about on the podcast is the fact that the way that the writing is done, it like nothing really hits you over the head. It always leaves room to maneuver in many different directions. So what happens to us is, me and Dave employ the swag method, the silly wild ass guess method of trying to make predictions for the next episode, how the season is going to end up. And then we get like, we get comments from listeners be like, dude, you were way the fuck off. Like, where the hell did you come up with that? But I think
doesn't it feel great? You're like, dude, I told Saul.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like I knew that Tuco was going to be the big reveal in the first episode, and that was just like throwing a dart at a board of pictures.
You know what? When we got the script, like when I got the final script on table read day, we get to Albuquerque. Everybody's there. It's first day of school. Doesn't matter how long you've been in the business. It's first day of school, and you're shaking hands, and you're meeting everybody, and you're nervous, and you're assuming you're going to get fired. All that sort of craziness is going through your head. And then we sit down and start reading the script. So we read the script, and we get to the final page. And, I mean, these are the people who are going to be making the show. And the last page is redacted. Like it's a CIA file. It's a fact. It doesn't have a character name. It doesn't tell you what the fuck happens. And so we read this, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And it was like the longest time until I knew it was him. But I have to say, it was so sort of not on my radar that when I saw the pilot at our premiere, I equally was there. When the door opens and it's him, I go, oh, no shit. And I got chills. I was like, wow, as if somehow I had missed the show I was in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I predicted Hank Schrader because I was trying to think of who was who would be. Because it was a thing, like everybody was talking about, like a returning bad guy. And then I think I overthought it. I was like, well, who would naturally be a bad guy to Saul? And I was like, well, it appears that they kind of knew each other the first time that Badger guy got arrested. So maybe he is like the big cameo in the first episode. So, but there's just so many different ways that it's written and so many different ways it can go, and it's kind of fun to hear that. Even though you guys are directly involved, obviously acting out your characters and establishing your characters, like in a lot of ways, you're in the same boat we are, just trying to figure out where the hell it's going to go when, it's just like a handful of people that actually.
Yeah, and the first time we saw the flashbacks, I was like, what? We're going to Chicago. What? And then all this time shifting thing. And, and they don't use it as a gimmick. I mean, it really utilizes it in terms of what its storytelling is. And and I just thought it's really crazy because we've watched Breaking Bad, right? We have these events in our lives already. We know what is going on. So you come to this story with that story in tow. And so when you start dropping markers 10 years previous, and then we also know where Saul ends up in the end in Nebraska, it's like you're asking, you're allowing your audience the intelligence to go ahead and be able to drop markers from 4 different time zones while you're talking to a story, and you can develop a richness of a line, a look, or a reference over 3 lifespans. And I think that's really cool. And that's the only reason I ever suggested anybody to watch Breaking Bad before watching this is because I said, you're going to love the palette that you see, but it's a much richer palette if you know what's going on. Literally in landscapes and shots, diners and things like that. The first time we see Mike at the diner, we're like, well, that's sweet. That diner had so much going on in it. But if you didn't see the show, I'm not going to throw my parents under the bus, my parents, then you wouldn't know what's going on.
Right. Me and Dave, I think one of our original plans was try to develop some sort of timeline for the website, but then the show ended up after Breaking Bad and then came back like 6 years prior. And then I think like at the 3rd episode, it went like, a few years before that. And then at some point it was revealed that he had been in New Mexico already for 10 years. And me and Dave were just like, okay, we're just going to leave this to people way smarter than us. And just trust it.
There's somebody with even more time on their hands than you two who are going to do it.
Right, yeah.
We'll just present it to the rest of the fans if they present it to us, which would be awesome.
Yeah.
There you go. Take credit for it when it comes up. That's all.
One question I don't know if Dave, you want to ask the one question that we get all the time, and we've discussed at length on our podcast. You want to ask it, or you want me to ask it?
Are you talking about? You go ahead, Brian. You go ahead.
Okay. And the reason I preface it like that is because I haven't seen it answered, but then at the same time, Dave and I feel like you've probably been asked this question a million times. So here goes. Who is the second Hamlin partner?
Oh, it's Sean Connery, and he's my grandfather, and I can't wait for him to be in the second season. That's my fantasy. That's right. But in my mind,
that's the cold open right there.
The second Hamlin is Connery, right? And he's going to be I don't know, the breathing mask or something. I don't know. You know what? I've thought about it, and I've also thought maybe the other Hamlin is deceased. I've always thought of myself not as the second Hamlin, but as the first Hamlin.
The alpha Hamlin.
Yes, absolutely. So, because until that other one is named or brought in, I'm just like, what benefit does it do me to pretend like I'm not in fucking charge? The bigger rank around me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Right, Dave.
But no, that has, and I've tried to catch them. I'll be honest. I've tried to catch the writers and Vince and Peter, off guard about something else, and and I'll just say, like, I really like the idea of Hamlin being my grandfather. Who are you going to cast for that? And they'll just look at me.
Like, nice try.
Talking about it. I'm like, oh, okay. Maybe that's not it.
Yeah,
So,
Dave.
Did anybody answer it close? Did anybody have a good idea?
No. My idea is that it's some sort of like legal maneuver. Like, he doesn't really exist, but on paper he exists as a matter of like funneling funds and such. And I believe Dave just kind of came up with the idea, like, well, what if he's just a dead guy and like all they ever say about him is like I think the grandpa thing, like you said. I think Dave, didn't you say that, Dave?
I think I might have said a father or a brother. I think is what I said.
Yeah, and then the only thing they'd say about him is somebody would be like, hey, who's that picture on the wall? And they'd be like, oh, that's my dead uncle, Xavier Hamlin. And then that's it.
Hannibal Hamlin.
We tied into the X-Men all of a sudden. What? What's going on?
That's right.
Yeah,
I watched it.
You have like a shell game. But you know what? But you guys are onto something as well, and it touches on two things. It's one, Vince and Peter have allowed themselves, because of the storytelling that they have established, to allow lateral moves like that would make you go like, this still fits.
Right.
I think the idea that I have a brother missing is weird only because we have a brother situation already. However,
right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But I like the idea that, I didn't mind the fact that there wasn't any daddy figures this time around. And you mentioned that, though, but, who knows? Maybe things go south for the firm and maybe be rescued by, the old behemoth or, the guy who thought he was retired or, I don't know. And that's the great thing. And I stare at that logo all the time, but I never once thought I was the second Hamlin. So that just shows that I'm a narcissist. That's what that shows.
I think that I actually went like the brother angle because I would find it more interesting, like if there's the two Hamlin brothers, but then there's the two McGill brothers, and so Jimmy has one more thing to kind of be mad about, like my brother's not letting me in, but Hamlin and Hamlin are in, something like that.
Right, or even more parallel. I'm not letting my brother in either. Maybe there's a similar situation or a way of keeping. It's maybe it's like the Jinx, not quite as crazy, but it could be like
Right. Do you think we'll see any of the? Do you think we'll get any closure on the Kettlemans when we talk to Julianne? We were thinking of ideas for a spinoff show for her and campaigning pretty hard. So
here's that thing. I don't know if she told you as well. I mean, they were scheduled, I think, for like an episode or something like that.
Yeah.
Or two at Pops. But they came in and just hit such a ballpark, a ball out of the park that, that's just gold. The writers saw them and they're like, oh, we have to write for this. And they did.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so great. And I was so sorry that sort of like the storyline seemingly has ended. But is it? I mean, he's going to jail, so he's still in Albuquerque. We assume she's still in Albuquerque. I mean, I don't know how you don't have Mrs. Kettleman show up at the show again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
Yeah, just-
right now, it seems like that storyline is gone. But, as long as you're not dead, I think everything's in play.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well,
So even if you are dead, you can, even if you are dead, talk to Mike. He's back, so it's all good.
yeah, absolutely. It's we've taken up quite a bit of your time tonight, so I guess I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, and congratulations on a great first season of Better Call Saul. I can't wait to see if we get some of our questions answered. And the last thing we always ask our guests, what is your favorite frozen pizza?
My favorite frozen pizza. It used to be a Geno's a long time ago. I'm a Pennsylvania boy. Like the little pizza squares, which I'm sure are the worst things on the planet, but I have such a fond memory of them. So these days, it's Trader Joe's, the Pizza Primavera. That's where I'm going.
That is our second Trader Joe's pizza.
Yeah, that is.
Pizza, yeah, not so bad.
Yeah, awesome. Do you put extra stuff on it?
Wait, I'm going to back at you. What's your favorite frozen pizza?
Oh man, I'd say lately I've been going with Tony's. I've been feeling Tony's a whole bunch.
No, the 6-inch ones, or like the whole big pie noise.
No, I'm a big guy. I eat the whole 14-incher.
What are these 6-inch things? What are you, some thin actor drinking juice out there in Los Angeles?
Pizza nuggets.
I roll it up. I roll it up like a burrito and just eat it like that.
Oh my God, I love that image. That's really good. That makes me want to come to Chicago and eat with you.
I tell you what,
Thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, and thank you to all your fans who are listening to your podcast, and thank you all for watching the show and being supportive of it. And I hope that season 2 is equally as awesome, and I'd be more than happy to come back anytime you guys need me to.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Patrick, Fabian. Thank you. You have a great night.
All
right, take care, guys.
You better call quick. Saul, you better call Saul. He'll fight for your rights when your back's to the wall. Stick it to the man, justice for all.